Denton, Texas, in the early 1980s, and there was a missing time episode and a very confusing screen memory overlaying what she consciously recalled from this. Amy recalls being taught many things by the entities that have worked with her, including, as here with her 2 young daughters, being shown how to pass through solid objects. And since she had mastered it, now they were going on to the daughters. Of course, she can't do it when she's not with the aliens. One of her daughter's drawings of a ball of light that she has seen a couple of times in the house, and this is a young child's drawing. She says she's only seen this one a couple of times. It's 2 to 3 feet wide, but the one she has seen more frequently is much smaller, like a probe device that we've heard reported numerous times. This one being slightly different, as you'll see here. She said it's like a wiggly tail appendage coming off of this one, but she says this is frequently in the room with her. And she doesn't seem to be fearful of anything to do with these probes, these light sources, although she's not real happy when the aliens have interacted with her. This is a recent just doodle that the daughter had made at 8.5 years old that the mother managed to get me a copy of, and you can see a lot of the what she's doodling out here obviously has some significance to the abduction experiences she's had. Amy's memory of consciously waking up as she's floating down her hallway into the kitchen and out the back door in one of her events. She said that was the conscious part. After she got outside, she didn't remember anything, but you can imagine waking up floating and being a little bit surprised. She quite was. This is the FEMA Underground Center of Government facility across the street from which Amy lived at the time she was abducted and taken to an underground facility with human and alien entities. This is also the same facility that was less than 2 miles from the house my husband and I lived in when he was abducted by military and taken to an underground facility. Just thought you might want to drop in and tour the place. Her screen memory began with this abduction where the alien apologized and removed the implants, with seeing what she thought was a big moon with the entities floating above them. Now, a lot of this is from conscious recollection, and some of the drawings are also from what she gleaned through hypnosis. She recalled being in her dining room where these the non-Earth representatives, as she called them, and the human representatives first came to get her, to take her to this facility. And the men all look quite human. She said, in fact, she almost thought she recognized one of them as a political figure, but she wasn't really certain. She was told they were ex-professional pilots, military people, and so on, but when she got up close to one, she could see the vertical slit eyes and began looking at the other men and said she was aware that they had contact lens coverings over their pupils. And without the coverings, with the coverings, they just looked, she said you couldn't tell them from your neighbors. She was told to not remember this scene, and she fought very hard to do so. The facility room into which she was taken, now the little drawing at the front of that is Amy with the female alien who was apologizing and removing the implants. She said the entity had a plastic-like mask over its face, and it's very confusing what the purpose of that might have been, because if it was to keep the eyes from having any kind of control, certainly it didn't work, because the eyes were the only thing that actually did show on her face. And we'll see that a little closer up in just a moment. I think. Yeah. Amy's drawing of the removal of the implant from the ear, which seemed to be of a malleable, flesh-colored substance, and when it was pulled out of the ear and shown to her, it disintegrated. And we have another report, Barbara Barthlick has another case report where an identical ear implant did exactly this when removed. It just broke into pieces and dissolved, disappeared. But she said when she looked at it before it changed, she could see what were embedded in it, like finely placed little wires or filaments that were in this biological-looking or flexible-looking material that was very flesh-colored. Then the removal of the implant from the base of her neck, and there is still a little white circle from where that occurred. At this point, there was nothing on that we had evidence of from the ear removal. This implant was more typical of some others we've seen on drawings and x-rays, metallic filament rod with little filaments on the end. She shows here, as we talked about earlier, where the implants are the old implants were being placed, and the new ones, she's told, are going into the spine, the brainstem area. And the alien told her about some of the newer implants. Now, this is the drawings of first the instrument used to remove them, the little biologically flexible-looking ear implant, the spot on the back of her neck, and the implant that was taken out of that spot, the rod with little filaments on the end. And this is also in the book, one of the illustrations we were able to include. She said that she was told newer implants are being placed through an area behind and slightly below the ear and into the base stem of the brain area and the medulla oblongata. She said they look like little tiny metallic Tic Tacs, and that the alien told her these were the new ones. She remembered getting the close-up, eyes-to-eyes things and having information imparted to her about the nature of the implants. Consciously, she did not remember much about it, but she did remember she was very unhappy about what she was told. And under regression, she retrieved more specifics of these controls, which do match up with the reticular formation area. A more recent daytime sighting right over the Dallas-Fort Worth airport at noon when she was out on lunch break, she said was so amazing because she saw what first looked like 4 UFOs flying in a formation. As they got closer, they looked like airplanes, again in formation, and then as they kept flying, the airplanes lined up and became a solid circular object. One of the nonsense marks, and we certainly get a lot of these, this one happens to be on Amy, marks on the body that are not punctures, not claw marks, not burns, not cuts, they're just designs. And these turn up from time to time, and this one we just were able to get a good photo of. And finally, Amy's drawing of some of the helicopter harassment that has plagued her and her family ever since she made contact with me and began working on exploring her case. And of course, many of us, including our family, have had this over and over and over. Amy's had a lot with the helicopters. Angie's had a lot with numerous military flights. So give a listen.
The second time it circled. February 22nd, 1:35 p.m. p.m., February 22nd.
10 minutes later, it's back circling. On the original, you can see some strange antenna display on these that don't show up as we've made the generation down copies.
Second, 2 p.m.
15 minutes later, it's back.
(2:15 p.m., February 22nd.
15 minutes later, it's back. Notice this tight
What could have uprooted a tree that big is beyond me. February 23rd.
This is the day after the repeated overflights. There had been rain, but no storm that night. If you notice, trees very close to this one are totally unscathed, except for two that have sheared off top branches and no other damage to smaller limbs around them. Perhaps it's just coincidental, but it was the day following all of this activity, so she wanted to include it in case there was a relevance. You can see there was living wood. It was not a dead tree, albeit this would make you think so. We have samples from the tree, and it was still alive at the time this occurred. See, the tree that close to where it was uprooted is totally untouched. But there was a cut-off branch on this top of this tree, and you see no damage to the smaller limbs around it, and the same with a second tree. Right there.
3:15, February 26th.
It's 3 days later, she begins to have other activity, and this goes on intensely for about a 2-week period. It's just a little of what she captured.
3:25, February 26th. Third time it's circled. p.m., March 5. .50 p.m., March 5. March 6, 3 p.m.
That's one of those crane helicopters with the crooked tail. Okay, Craig, that's all. Thanks. All right, these are just some of the things I wanted to share with you. I wish I could have included and taken when we were able to publish it last year, and I hope this will help give you a little bit more idea for those of you who read the book, what the women were talking about and trying to describe. And for those of you who may read it in the future, at least you'll have some point of reference now for many of the things they've talked about. Really enjoyed the opportunity to share at least these few facts with you today, and I appreciate your attention, and we'll have questions this evening at the speakers panel, so thank you very much.